Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. I recently bought the Still Pretty palette from September Rose Cosmetics, and the reason I bought it was because it was my first choice when I was considering a red palette to buy. At the time that I bought a red palette, I actually ended up going with my second choice for reasons which I can card above for you in that video. But anyway, recently I bought my first choice, and now I want to put them next to each other and see how they compare. So if you are interested in seeing these two palettes swatched side by side to see how the tones and shades and colors look next to each other, this is the video for you. If you're new here and you've never been here before, hello, my name is Rachel. I am a homeschooling stay-at-home mom. I love to play with eyeshadow, especially colorful eyeshadow. I did film this look using the Still Pretty palette. Once it's live, I'll link it down below in the description box. But I upload 3 or 4 videos every week. It's all eyeshadow content. If you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe before you head out. Alright guys, so let's just talk about the palettes, really, quick overview. The Still Pretty palette is not an exclusive red palette. Again, in the beginning of the video, I carded above the video where I was talking about all the palettes I was considering and what my thoughts were behind each. So Still Pretty was my #1 choice. Even though it's not a true red palette, it has a couple core red tones. These here specifically and that one as well. And then the rest are colors which look nice with red, pinks and purples, interesting shimmer shades, a beautiful inner corner highlight. It also has a larger selection of colors all around. But I couldn't get this for the price point I was willing to spend, and so I ended up getting the Cherry on Top palette from BH Cosmetics. I knew that this was going to be a great palette before I purchased it because I already had 2 from this series. The series is well loved by everyone. I know the BH quality, so I knew it would be a good choice for me. And as you can see, this has fewer colors all around, bigger pan sizes. It's got, again, a couple red tones and then some more peachy pink tones that work with red. So I really wanted to compare these guys as I struggle bus. I really wanted to compare them side by side because when I look at the pans, I think that I can dupe out almost every color in the Cherry on Top palette with something in here. So let me just point out what I'm thinking, and then I'm going to swatch them and we'll see for sure. This shade right here, I don't think I can, I mean the closest would be Poppy, but Poppy is definitely more purple and this is definitely more bubblegum, so I'm not even going to bother swatching that one. They're not close enough. This shade here is called Juicy. In the pan, it doesn't look the same as this one here called Florentina, but I used Florentina on my lids today, and you can see that it does, at least combined with the other shimmer, it does have more of an orangey hue to it. So I'm just curious if this one swatches similarly to this one, because sometimes it looks a bit different in the pan. I don't know. The shade right here, Maraschino, is a pretty close color match to Primrose. Primrose is certainly more of a rosy tone, but Primrose is a matte and Maraschino is a shimmer. I thought I would swatch them next to each other just to compare the colors. I know they're not dupes. Black Cherry looks a lot like Aster right here, although Black Cherry has a slight more black undertone. The shade Sunday here looks a lot like Camellia. Sunday's more peach, Camellia is more pinky. Again, Wild Cherry here makes me think of Gerber Daisy. Gerber? I always thought it was Gerber Daisy. I guess it's not, or it's misspelled, but I don't expect that they would have released something with misspellings. Gerber? I don't know. Anyway, this one up here. At first I thought it was like this shade here, but looking, now I've got some natural sunlight coming on me finally because it's during the day that I'm filming this. And with the natural light, the shades that I thought were similar are not looking similar now. So I'm curious. Tart here is probably closest to Red Rose, and then the shade Sprinkles here is closest to Cherry Blossom. So those are the ones that I'm going to be comparing. I'm sorry I'm not the best at swatching, and I've got this weird, it's just a weird angle to try to swatch, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's fun, and I really want to see how these palettes compare and if I need both. One of the reasons that I bought the Cherry on Top palette was because I knew that if at any point I wanted to resell it, it would be a pretty easy sale because it's from the Sweet Shop series. So I don't want to keep both of these if they're so close that I'm going to get pretty much the same looks. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned in the intro, I don't remember. I did film today's look and I'll link it down below. It's probably going to go live before this video does, so it shouldn't be a problem. And I'm going to start swatching with the lightest tones and work up to the darkest so that I don't stain my finger before I dip into a light tone. So we're going to start with the shade in the Sweet Shop palette. It is called Sunday. And in Still Pretty, it's called Camellia. So here is Sunday, and here is Camellia. Now let's swatch them out and see how they look. Here is Sunday, and here's Camellia. They're both really pretty shades. Sunday is certainly more peach, which it does look in the pan like a more peach tone. Camellia is sort of a softer baby pink. They're really nice, but they're close. Definitely close. All right, so I was going to compare Wild Cherry in Sweet Shop to the Gerber Daisy. I'm so sorry. I was going to compare those two together, but now putting them on my fingers, and again with natural sunlight coming in, everything that I was going to do is confusing and wrong and just wrong. So I'm actually going to pair it with Red Rose because they are, that was my first instinct, they are much closer. Here's Wild Cherry and here's Red Rose. And on the arm they look like this, Wild Cherry and Red Rose. Oh yeah, they are quite close. Wow. I can't actually tell them apart. I actually cannot tell them apart. I think that it could just be the swatch. There might be a very light, more orangey tint to this shade right here, but I can't tell them apart. On the lid, they would look exactly the same. The next shade in the Sweet Shop palette is called Tart. And honestly, I think that Red Rose is kind of a cross between the Wild Cherry and the Tart shade. So here is the shade Tart. Let's see how that compares to the two of them. Oh, Tart is way deeper. And it's actually a little bit more pigmented and a little smoother. Color-wise, I think they're really similar. Tart has a more, maybe a red apple kind of coloring to it. It's got a tinge more redness, whereas the others are like a peachy orangey sort of base. They're all really close. I do think that you could build up either of these shades to get to that. Okay, so here's a pairing that I knew would not actually be dupes, but I wanted to look at them next to each other because on my eye, combined with the other shimmer, they look like dupes. These are the shades Juicy from the Sweet Shop series and Florentina from Still Pretty. Florentina's obviously more gold. And on the fingers, they look like, come on, this is such a waste of time. But I did use Florentina on my eyes today, and it looks a lot more orangey, more like the Juicy tone, because I paired it with the red shimmer. So I'll do the red shimmer next and we'll see. So here is Juicy. It's a beautiful shimmer. Here's Florentina, which is obviously a more bronzy tone with little pink reflect in it. And then I wanted to take, oh yes, within the Still Pretty palette is the shade Zinnia, which is the other one that I used on today's lid. And that's right here. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting that. Oh my goodness. That shade is amazing. Okay. So, and that was just one swipe. Wow. Okay. So this Zinnia shade, it's beautiful. It's almost a ruby pink shimmer. When I'm looking at it in the light here, I see purple reflect as well. Did you see how that swatched? Wow. I even used that today and I wasn't expecting it. Okay, so these two shades together are what I used on my eyelid today. I'll zoom in so you can see. And when I put them together, where the bronzy shade overlapped the reddish tone, you can see that it looks like more of an orangey shimmer. At least at 6 a.m., that's what it looked like. Obviously, there are no dupes here within these shimmers, but together, these two kind of looked a little bit like that. This one has sort of a pink undertone. Do you see that? I'm sorry. I know this is the weirdest angle ever. My swatches are so clumsy. Some people do swatches well. I am not one of those people. I don't know. Okay, what else do we have? Maraschino. This is the one where I'm comparing a shimmer to a matte, but I just want to look at the tones. I'm comparing Maraschino in Sweet Shop to Primrose in Still Pretty. So and they're definitely different in tone on my finger. Here's Maraschino, and here is Primrose. So let's do Maraschino, and oh my goodness, and Primrose. Okay, Primrose is more of a rosy pink, a little bit of a bubblegummy purple sort of undertone. It's kind of a blue base. And Maraschino is a lovely pinky reddish shimmer. They're definitely different. They look a little bit similar in the pan, but in reality, on the skin, different. I've got two more to compare. I've got the shade Black Cherry from the BH palette, and then here is the shade Aster from the Still Pretty palette. Now those do look a lot more similar. Black Cherry seems to have more of a black base, which I think I said before, and Aster is a bit more of an orangey red. Let's put them here. Here is Black Cherry. Oh, swatches beautifully, and here's Aster. Yeah, you can see exactly what I just said. More of a black base, and then more of an orange. but also it's the difference between shimmer versus matte. Like they're very different formulas. You're not comparing two shimmers together. Can you guys see? I really hope you can see. I'm sorry. This is so clumsy. My swatch videos are a hot mess. They're a mess. But we're almost done. I think I'll do the last two on my hand just so that I'm not like going like this on you guys. I want to compare the shade Sprinkles in the BH Sweet Shop palette to the shade Cherry Blossom in the Still Pretty palette. So here's Sprinkles, and here's Cherry Blossom. They're quite different as well. Sprinkles is a beautiful, beautiful dark burgundy. It's so rich. It's like this deep wine color. And then Cherry Blossom is a little bit more of a blood red with like a brown base. They're both really pretty. I would say, okay, so here are the two palettes, as close as I can get side by side. What do you guys think? Do you think that they're close enough that I can get basically the same looks from them? Or do you think that they're different and I should keep them both? What do you think? All right, so here are some of my thoughts. I won't say final thoughts because I don't think I've formed them yet. The Cherry on Top palette is excellent quality. It's beautiful, it's interesting, and Cherry on Top is a great palette. It is really good. The only thing is that it doesn't excite me. And I think that's important. I think I should be excited by my eyeshadow palettes because I want to have that energy when I go into doing a look. Now, I don't usually do a look with just this palette. I think I did the first time I used it, but aside from that, I pair it with something else. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, the Still Pretty palette obviously offers more tones and colors, more variety. I prefer a smaller pan size because I prefer to get more options with less product. I mean, I'm probably never going to hit pan on one of the Sweet Shop palettes. They're just, the pans are huge. Like I don't think I'll ever get to the bottom of one. And so if you adore a palette, that's a good feature to have because it'll take you a long time to get through it. But if you don't use it all the time, then I prefer a smaller pan size, perhaps even the same amount of product, but in a larger variety and assortment of colors. I don't know. Anyway, I think that this palette is more interesting and it does excite me. And it offers me obviously more because it's got more tones. So at this point, I can't say that I would get rid of Sweet Shop. If I were only trying to do these toned looks, then maybe I would keep Sweet Shop and not have bought Still Pretty at all. But Still Pretty offers a lot more colors. It has all the purples, it has all the pinks, and I think that that might bring more value to my collection because it's simply a larger variety of colors. Does that make sense? I mean, yes, a lot of these tones are close enough that if you were staying within this color scheme, you could do with one palette but not the other and get the same. I mean, it's close enough, right? These tiny, tiny nuances don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's just eyeshadow. But because the other palette offers more variety with other tones, and I'm not just staying within 6 shadows, it might behoove me to keep the larger palette that I am liking. I had no problem at all doing today's eye look. Everything blended and built, everything was pigmented, it was all beautifully performing, and I'm actually quite excited to dip into the other shades in here. I did a little of everything. I started with purple, I blended it out with pink, and then I put a red shimmer on, but I want to do a purple look, a pink look, a red look. I want to use this all over my lid. I want to use this all over my lid. I want to use the red shimmer all over my lid and see what I can get from them. And I don't have that kind of option or excitement with the Cherry on Top palette. So at this point, I haven't decided. I just wanted to see them next to each other and get a realistic idea of how they compare and what one can offer over the other. So I appreciate you hanging out with me today. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. If you care at all, remember to like and subscribe before you leave if you want to see more. And until I see you in my next video, I hope you have a great day.